But as we wrap, now you're sitting in New York. I guess I actually checked. It's like 12,500 kilometers away. And like as someone who grew up in Taiwan and went all the way there, and then the other day we were talking about, I guess, the limitation that a lot of the startups really are facing here in Taiwan, especially in the software side. And we're talking about project versus products. And you as an expert in the product side, and also with some family background with entrepreneurship and startup, I would love to actually get your take in terms of what you're seeing sort of like from the outside, in terms of what the startup founders in Taiwan can potentially think a little bit more. And also, I guess, that probably also applies to investors as well.
Yeah. So what Elisa alluded to in terms of family backgrounds, my father started a software business in Taiwan when I was in high school, and it's a venture-backed business. I'm not going to name the specific company, but it's a 300-400 person company. Probably some of you have come across them at one point. It is very hard to build a software business in Taiwan because the market is so small. Like the way we think about it, I was just kind of giving you a market context. If I see a market slide that says the market size is 5 billion, I was like, it's too small for venture. And you're like, what? And US dollar. Why is that? Well, the way I think about it, shorthand, first of all, entrepreneurs are going to inflate whatever market size. So I need to like take a cut of that. And then I'm going to be like, to get to 1% of any market is very difficult. So if you're a $5 billion market total, and it would take you, let's say it takes you 5 years, excellent execution to get to 1% of the market. That's only 50 million. So that's not big enough for $1 billion outcome. And then why do I care about $1 billion outcome? Because I have a $100 million fund. At exit, if I own 10%, I only 1x my fund. And I need 2 more of these in order to 3x net, or not even net, gross, right? So like we have LPs. So that's kind of how I think about market size, which is unfortunate because there's many things. So back to Taiwan, I mean, obviously so I think it's very hard. Number one is like, you have to start internationally. I've seen my father do that, and it's really, really tricky. Taiwan has advantage because the software talent and just the technical talent is really good. But I think it's probably better now. But I think to build an international kind of client, if you're a B2B client presence, BD sales, I mean, selling in every country is very different. You need local sales teams, really hard to hire. I mean, they still struggle with that until today. Like they don't have, I don't think they want to get into the North American market. They have to like bring him out every time they want to sell something, but that doesn't really work at scale. So that is very difficult. So consumer is a slightly different story. And I think then like China is a really difficult market because it's not that easy, even though we have similarities in culture and language. So it's and then Southeast Asia is very fragmented. Every country is very different. Now you've seen examples of Southeast Asia as like Grab and some other players that started in Singapore, Southeast Asia, and be able to like dominate. And I think maybe that's a little bit of a result of the DNA from, kind of the aggressiveness, Western style, which I'll touch on the second point, which is like, I think this probably goes back to the funding environment. In the US, you can be like, I don't know how to make money until later, or like, I can lose money until later because I have venture. Not to say you should build irresponsible businesses, but at any given moment in time, as a company, you're balancing growth versus profitability, right? So if you don't have venture to kind of help you continue to focus on growth, of course you have no choice to focus on profitability. So when you focus on profitability, and I've seen it again with kind of the business my father started, they're an EBITDA positive business. But then they're like, it's like a really weird story for investors because like, well, you're not really growing that much, but you've been like more than 10 years old, but you're turning out EBITDA, but your revenue scale is not that big. Like, I don't know how to package you because like, it's really tricky because investors like, their shortcut is if you're not growing like 3x year over year, there's no market pull. Like you're not working in a market that's interesting enough. But that's a really tricky proposition for people who also want to like be profitable or have to be profitable because you don't have lined up venture or enough of a venture ecosystem to support you to focus on growth. So I think that is a practical challenge. And the last thing I would say is product versus project. So we touched a little bit about that. And that has something to do with number 2, which is when you have to be profitable, you have to bid on projects to like get to the product you want to build, as opposed to here's a product we want to build, and then we would like just sell this productized, as opposed to the problem with projects is that everything is custom, right? Like, and when everything is custom, you don't have really like a unified point of view, and the cost structure and the way you think the business is architects is very different than, hey, I'm just churning out a software product, and we either have an enterprise sales strategy or we have a bottoms up self-serve strategy, and you can have unified pricing, and it's much more scalable growth strategy. And with that, I think, I don't know, it's hard for me to comment because I'm not as involved in the landscape, but I think traditionally, because Taiwan is more hardware and manufacturing driven, as an ecosystem, we don't yet have a deep bench of software product talent. And project managers are different than product managers. Project managers keep the train running. Product managers decide what is the next iteration of the train that we need to build. Those are slightly different skill sets. Yes, product people manages projects as well, but I think if product people have to be more like, they understand the market, where the market is going, where the customers are going, where the business is going, and again, synthesize that. And I think that's I would say New York 10 years ago didn't have a deep product bench. So that's why people are like, oh, you can't build large companies in New York because you guys don't actually know how to. And then now we have more because we have more companies that have matured, have grown up, and then they churn out product talent. And then they go, or like Uber's New York office churn out some senior product people, and then they go start businesses. So we now have, but it took 10 years, kind of from my personal vantage point, because last time I was in venture in New York, I feel like we didn't have this deep bench of companies. I mean, myself included. When I was first getting to head of product, like a VP of product role, I had like less than 10 peers in the city who I can compare notes with. And every head of product job was like trying to recruit me among a few other candidates, because we don't have that many senior product people who have scaled with the business to a different level. So I think that just takes time. But so those are my high level thoughts.